Hello, I just got done watching Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills is the final chapter of the Blumhouse Halloween trilogy. All three movies star Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, her granddaughter Allison, played by Andi Matichak, and James Jude Courtney as Michael. All three movies were directed by David Gorden Green, and all of the movies were scored by John Carpenter with his son Cody, who originally scored the original Halloween and directed and co-written the first one. I'm a lifelong fan of Halloween, and back in 2018, when I saw the first Halloween of this trilogy, I loved it, and I loved how they got Jamie Lee Curtis in a new version of the Laurie Strode character. Um, I still think that my favorite Halloween movie out of the series is the original Halloween 2 in 1981, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. However, this was a different timeline of Laurie Strode. It's pretty confusing, but there was a lot of different timelines with Halloween, and this was just one of those timelines. Last year, Halloween Kills came out, and I did not like it at all. It was sort of like the middle chapter of it, and the movie was exactly what the title suggested. It was just Michael going around killing people, which you could argue is all these movies, but I liked um, the movies for a little bit of the plot, and I just didn't feel Halloween Kills had enough plot going on. However, with Halloween Ends, I definitely loved the plot and the story with it, and it's definitely an original plot. The movie picks up with a younger man who is babysitting a small child and is accidentally killed, and it jumps to 3 years later or so, and he's out in the midst of the aftermath of the Michael Myers killings with Laurie and her granddaughter starting a new life after losing Laurie's daughter and Allison's mother from the previous film was murdered by Michael, and eventually a little bit of a romantic relationship between the character of Corey and Allison um, go throughout the film, and definitely shows the return of Michael. Um, After thinking about it, it was probably my favorite out of the three films. Um, I like how they were a little bit different and they picked up the from the last movie um, 3 years later. And I understand due to COVID and other things like that, they wanted to do a little bit of a jump in the timeline, which I'm glad kind of ended up happening. I also like the return of Will Patton as Deputy Frank Hawkins. I was originally disappointed in Halloween 2018 when he was supposedly killed by Dr. Sartain, but I was glad that he was revived in Halloween Kills because I really liked that character, and he eventually becomes a romantic interest for Laurie, which I like those two together as a couple. Um, I also liked how there were some Easter eggs with not only the original Halloween movies, but there was a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing in the film at the beginning. Corey and the boy he's babysitting is watching the 1982 version of John Carpenter's The Thing. And fun fact, in the original 1978 Halloween, Laurie and Tommy Wallace are watching the Howard Hawk version of The Thing, which the original Halloween was directed at by John Carpenter, and years later he went on to direct the remake of The Thing, which I thought was an interesting Easter egg. Um, so overall, I really liked this movie. Um, one complaint I did have, though, is that it did take a while to show Michael off, but that's okay because it was a very interesting introduction with the story of Corey and other things that go on. I don't want to spoil the entire movie, and I would like to add, as of October 2022, the film is on Peacock, which I had watched at home. Um, the film is available on Peacock for Xfinity subscribers, and it's on there for up to 60 days. So if you happen to listen to this between now and then, I would recommend watching it on Peacock. Um, this was really good. I can't wait to watch it again. It almost makes me kind of like the other two a little bit more. But like I said, I've been a lifelong Halloween fan and a Michael Myers fan. I don't know if this is the final chapter of just the Blumhouse trilogy or Michael Myers in general, but I do understand that Jamie Lee Curtis says she's done with the franchise, and I don't really blame her. I think she's done a great job for the past 40 years coming on and off as Laurie, and I feel that there's only so many versions that you can do to play the character. Um, this was probably my favorite version of the character of Laurie because I kind of liked how it showed her playing more of a badass Sarah Connor type style character versus the sort of borderline alcoholic headmaster and H2O. I really didn't care for that movie, and maybe someday I'll make a separate video on why I don't care for that timeline. But anyway, as far as Halloween Ends goes, I really liked it a lot, and if you're a Michael Myers fan, I would definitely not hesitate into checking this out. Thank you for listening.